Alright, what is up YouTube? It's your boy Alan back with another video, and as some of you guys know, I'm on the job hunt again, and I've probably been job interviewing for the last 8+ years of my life. So I'd say I have pretty good experience in doing that, and I've been able to land roles. So in this video, I want to just share some tips and tricks I have in terms of job interviews. And to specify, I work in tech as a product marketing manager, and I think my advice here is going to be more relevant to folks interviewing for non-technical roles, maybe a bit for technical roles in terms of the earlier stages of the hiring process. But when I think about interviewing, and I know the job market is rough right now because it's summer and everybody's getting laid off in tech, and it seems like everybody's been getting laid off in tech for the last 4 years. So, but I think the number one thing when it comes down to getting a job is first, you gotta get the interviews. So my resume is pretty clean and cookie cutter. There's no pictures or new interesting formats. It's black text and very simple. And the language I use, I make sure I'm weaving in statistics and outcome-oriented language and value-driven language. You can simply look online on best practices on how to write resume bullet points. You can also prompt AI. I like to use Perplexity to help me write my resume bullet points. I find that Perplexity AI does have a more conversational and natural writing style than ChatGPT or Claude, but that's just my own personal opinion. And using Perplexity, I share with it all the context in terms of what I did and to help me shape my resume bullet points. And you can also go on LinkedIn of certain people that you're trying to get similar roles to and look at their bullet points and how they write them. I also did that as well, doing those two processes. So making sure you have a strong resume. Obviously, it does help if you have good company logos on it or well-known brand names. I think that does help you get more interview flow. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the job, but it does help you get your foot in the door, as I've experienced when I first got my big first company name on my resume. I noticed that I was getting more interview requests. But I think beyond the interview and sending in resumes, cold applications, and basically every job I've gotten has been through a cold application. Actually, no, my last job was through a direct message from a recruiter, but the majority of my jobs I've sent in cold. But I'm doing that strategy right now, and I'd say it's pretty tough. It's a big volume play, I'd say. And I think I've probably sent out at least 50 plus applications cold and got one or two responses to interview. So obviously the hit rate is not that high. The other hack here that I began to do was I optimized my LinkedIn profile. I see a lot of people's LinkedIn profiles where there's nothing filled in about their about section. There's no detail in terms of all the roles and companies they worked at. I think that strategy works if you have a very stacked corporate logo on your LinkedIn. So for example, if you see somebody that's worked at Netflix, Google, Stripe, all these well-known brand name companies, I think you can get away with that without adding context to your roles, because recruiters are immediately interested in those type of companies, and they immediately assume that you might be qualified for the role because you have these brand name logos on your resume. But for folks that, like myself, I've worked at one name brand company, a bunch of startups, it's really important that I have a about me section that talks about my product marketing background and my approach to how I approach my job, as well as clear outcome oriented written language is super important, and also having keywords that are specifically tied to your role. So for example, if you are doing a product manager role, you would want to see those keywords that pop up in job descriptions for what people are hiring for. I did that as well, to look at reading job descriptions to make sure that is aligning with your own experience and it's in the language that they are trying to match with, recruiters are trying to match with your profile. And then the about section is one part. Make sure you have all the keywords in there. And then you also want to go into your LinkedIn and each company you've worked at. Make sure you could simply mirror the bullet points you have on your resume, but make sure you fill that in. I think mine are slightly different from what I have on my resume. It's a little bit more detailed on my LinkedIn. And that has been very important, making sure you're optimizing for keywords that align with the jobs that you are looking for. Because that's important, because recruiters, they have some kind of recruiter portal on LinkedIn, and I bet you they're just searching for keywords that map the jobs they're trying to match people with. And if your name pops up and they begin to review your background, there's a high likelihood they'll send you a LinkedIn DM and ask you to interview. I know once I started doing that and optimized my profile. Also, if you're doing the open to work thing, that also helps. I did the open to work thing, but it's not publicly visible. It's only visible to recruiters. That also increases the flow of recruiter DMs. So once I began to optimize my LinkedIn inbound profile, I was getting a lot more recruiter DMs, and I probably get at least 4 or 5 every week. The majority of them are from smaller stage startups or companies I've never heard of. And in the past, I probably would have taken these interviews, but with my new interview approach, that's not something I'm really trying to optimize for. I'm mainly trying to optimize for name brand companies that are public. And I probably get 1 or 2 a month in terms of a name brand company reaching out to me about my profile. And I think also when they reach out to you directly, you're obviously immediately in the interview cycle and they tier you a bit higher than the other candidates. But that's also a really important way if you want to get more interview deal flow, is optimizing that LinkedIn and getting that right. Share your work examples, optimize for the keywords. Not stress enough how important it is to optimize that LinkedIn, because I've gotten a few recruiter calls and they didn't even ask for my resume. They just read my LinkedIn profile and they reached out to me and they asked me to interview. I didn't even send a resume in. They didn't even ask for my resume. They just looked at my LinkedIn. So that goes to show you how some recruiters, they only looked at LinkedIn and not even look at resumes. The sending in resumes coldly is like throwing darts at a dartboard. It's just, you're sending it into the abyss and hopefully something works out. And sometimes it does work out, but it's very much a volume game. So once you do get the interview, you're going to start with a recruiter screen. Recruiter screen is basically checking if you can meet those basic qualifications. And specifically for product marketing manager roles, I basically know all the questions you're going to possibly ask me. Number 1 is tell me about yourself, and I think that works for all roles. Number 2 is why are you interested in this company? Why are you interested in this role? So when you're answering that question, make sure you actually do research on the product, the company, and provide a specific answer. You could say something like, I really am been a big fan of the company since you guys launched your first product. I've been following you guys, and I also used your product, and I see the value that's able to create for your customers as well as a user myself, and I'm really aligned with the company mission. I'm really passionate about the product, and you guys have strong market position, and that's why I'm really interested in learning about this role. And then also make sure they're going to ask you why you're interested in this job. So make sure you read the job description and point out some key things that you're actually excited about to possibly be working on at this company. And then the third question they always ask product marketing managers is, tell me a time when you managed a product launch. So make sure you have that answer in the back of your pocket. I think for the first round interviews, this really applies to all roles, even technical roles. Not the product launch question, but tell me about yourself. Why are you interested in this company? Why are you interested in this role? Those are the 3 questions you can make sure you nail, and make sure you're articulate, confident. I recommend that you could memorize it, but I think it comes off better if it sounds more conversational and natural. But in my earlier interviewing day careers, I did memorize most of my answers. And what I found was, as I got more senior, it's important to sound conversational and not like you're reading from a script. And then usually if you sound confident enough, you answer the questions with specificity, you'll get passed on to the next round unless, I don't know. There's also like different vibes, politicals that you could even crush an interview and be the perfect fit for the role and you still might not get it. It might be due to like internal politics or whatnot. I don't even know. But so when you get past the recruiter screen, then it's usually a hiring manager round. So the hiring manager round is, they're going to dig more into the specificity of your skill set, specifically for product marketing manager roles. It could be like a sort of a non-technical roles, but from my experience, when I'm doing product marketing manager interviews, they always ask me, tell me about yourself. But then it depends on the interview style, but more senior product marketing leaders, they really begin to pepper you with questions and making you think on your feet really quickly. So it's really hard for you to actually memorize your answers, because you really need to speak it from a conversational perspective. And if you memorize the answer, and if the answer question is slightly off, then you're gonna start stuttering. So I think it's really important that what I've done in the past is I memorize 5 to 10 stories, and then I recite them out loud a few times, but then I'm able to get it down to a conversational tone. And then those stories, even though I'm not saying it exactly, those core concepts are still stuck in my head, and I'm able to answer the question very fluidly. So that's a strategy I've been doing. In the past, I used to literally memorize every single freaking answer, and that was so stressful and hard, and I don't recommend it, because then you don't come off as like executive oriented. It's like a big deal in corporate if you're trying to get more mid and senior level roles. So, and I think when it comes down to the hiring manager interview, number one is, are you answering your questions with confidence, and do they make sense? And also, it's a culture vibe check if you and the manager get along. That's what I also noticed. So they're looking for, can this guy answer the questions with the skill sets I'm looking for, and then do you really think we can get along? Because I know this is true, because my last job I asked my hiring manager why she ultimately chose me for the role. And she was like, hey, I really liked your answers, but also I felt like we would work good together. So there's a lot of different factors involved. Like, yeah, you could be the absolute best candidate and most qualified, but there could be that mark of, hey, the manager doesn't think that this person is going to be, he's going to be able to work with you every day, and then they might not give you the role. And then from my experience, there's either rounds where you talk to other cross-functional members on the team. It could be similar for product managers or other not product marketing roles, could be just general marketing roles as well. You talk to the team, like a product manager, a different marketing manager, somebody cross-functional, and they're just going to basically ask you questions like, how do you deal with conflict? Tell me about a time you had to push back on a decision. How do you work with others? How do you partner with this team? They're trying to get a sense of your collaboration with other teams beyond your current role. I know that's like a very product marketing thing, because product marketing is a very cross-functional thing, but maybe that might be similar for product manager as well. So that's also another vibe check. The answers, they can be, make sure you deliver them confidence, conversational, and act like you belong there. But that's also a vibe check and culture check to make sure that team can get along with you and you can work with them. Then usually the next round is they do a case study take-home test. A lot of product marketing manager roles do this now. It's kind of a lot of work, but they might give you a prompt like, how would you launch this product? And then you have to build a go-to-market strategy on how you launch the product and present it to the team and do the Q&A. And I say it's kind of an intense process, because even though they say like don't spend more than 2 days on the assignment, I always end up spending more than 2 days. And it's just a natural part of getting a product marketing manager job. I'm not sure how it is for other marketing roles or other roles in tech, but also FYI, this is for now non-technical business roles. The earlier behavioral, like first round recruiter screens, I'd say that it's more relevant to like maybe a software engineer, but at this point it's not really relevant. And if you do a good presentation, you're answering the Q&A quickly. I know I remember one time I got rejected from a presentation interview because I did not have an executive presence, and I think that basically came from when I used to present and talk. I used to and stutter a lot, and I was also reading from a script during the presentation, so I think they could tell. I know I got called out once from reading from a script during a hiring manager call, and then since then I never have done that again, because I was just reading and it's pretty obvious at times. So I've really tried to train myself to be conversational. And once you get to the presentation, it's very much a crapshoot, because other teams and the folks are going to influence the hiring manager, and you don't know what they're thinking. You could think that you absolutely killed it and still not got the role, and then you could also think that I bombed that shit, but you still got the role. So I feel like it's just a crapshoot at that point. And yeah, usually after the case study interview, you might have a interview with somebody in the leadership department. I've had interviews with like the chief marketing officers or head of departments, so they can ask you what's more of a vibe check again, and maybe they'll ask you some technical questions about your role. But that's my experience of all the way from the interview process and then also to getting the role as a product marketing manager. And there are some cross-functional learnings you can do as a non-technical person working in tech that I think would be really relevant for you, especially your communication and interview style and how you tell stories and the confidence you have is a general learning that does really well in interviews, acting like you belong in the room and talking slowly and clearly and articulate. But at the end of the day, sometimes you don't get the role because of the vibe's not there. Maybe the role got canceled internally. It also could be they just don't feel like your skill set's there as well. So it's really hard to actually know why you didn't get the role. You can only come up with answers by yourself. But what I do know is as long as you keep going, get better at your skill set, your communication style, and your presentations if you have to do one, or your technical interviews, continue to learn and improve. Might take you longer than you expect, but just be confident in yourself that you'll get the role eventually. You'll get a job. So yeah, I want to share my years of almost 10 years of interviewing, but I'd say I'm a pro at it at this time. Well, thanks for tuning in to my stream of thought video. I hope this was helpful for folks on the job market. I know it's rough right now, and I've been sending so many applications into this. It's summer, it's slow, but I've been getting good inbound traffic actually. So sometimes I wonder, like, I'll just wait for the recruiter to reach out. I don't know when that's gonna happen, but I'll be ready. But I'm still being proactive, like, could get lucky.